Collectibles family, back again. More Pokemon talk, sealed Pokemon boxes.
Boy, I feel pretty good right about now.
My video from a couple days ago struck a nerve with some of the commenters, and that's okay. You know, that's the whole reason for doing this. You know, when I see 100 different Pokemon YouTubers that are saying exactly the same thing, I like to maybe look at it from a contrarian view to see like, hey, am I missing something here? Is there a piece of this that doesn't make sense to me? The good news is that there are a lot of folks that are ready to educate in the comments, whether that's in a nice way or a mean way or whatever, doesn't really matter. I am new to the Pokemon side of collectibles, but I'm not new to collectibles as a whole. So this is a really unique market. It's something that might be different than all the other ones, but I'm trying to figure out if that's the case or if it's kind of the same as other markets, but it's just acting a certain way right now. And that's kind of a fun thing to dissect, whether you are a believer that the bull market never ends, or that there might actually be some pullback at some point, or that there might actually be risks in this space. I'm not sure there's a lot of folks talking about risks in the space outside of scams and the obvious stuff. Contrary to popular belief, there actually is supply and demand risk. And a lot of it has to do with the behavior of all the other sealed holders. Now, one thing that I do really like about the space currently, and why I think that there is still going to be quite a bit of run for a lot of the product prices, is there are a lot of mini whales. Mini whales. So Rudy is like the big whale. It's like the blue whale. Rudy Alpha Investments, that's a big boy. You know, that's the one that's really like the one to rule them all. But there's a lot of mini whales too. You know, I know multiple people that have six figures in sealed Pokemon. And those are just the people that I know, and I'm not even in this space. I don't operate in this space. I've just started buying here over the last few weeks, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. And my 9-year-old enjoys Pokemon. Actually, he had moved over to some of the sports card stuff, and when I started to show him some of the sealed Pokemon, all of a sudden he's back in and kind of coming back onto the Pokemon side. So that's been fun to reconnect with him on the Pokemon stuff. I said in some of my earlier videos, I'm going to tackle this from a variety of different views. I don't want to just buy modern, brand new product or the stuff that's been printed over the last 3 or 4 years. I know that stuff is red hot right now, a lot of it, but I also want to look at what sorts of vintage opportunities are available, not even just on the sealed side, but also on the singles market. There's some just really interesting things about this space, and I'm going to talk about it on my channel. I'm going to document the journey and I'll share it with you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some sort of Pokemon expert or even a collectibles expert. I've been back into the hobby collecting / speculating on a variety of things for the last 6 years, 7 years. And so I'm not brand new, but I am new to this particular space. So one thing that I think is really interesting and one thing that I'm really watching is, let's use Fusion Strike as an example, because that's one that's really run up here. It's about $450 up to about $500 per booster box for Fusion Strike. One thing I think is really interesting and allows, again, I've talked about this before, allows for run-ups is just the fact that the initial price point is so reasonable on all of it. You know, if you have pre-order or even if you don't get in on the pre-order and you're buying it. Now, for new products moving forward, I don't know if that's going to be the case necessarily when you're looking at like a prismatic evolutions, but I'm talking about just going back in time a little bit. You know, you had the pre-order and then maybe you missed the pre-order at 100 and maybe you're paying 120 for a booster box. These aren't major significant differences. And the thing that I really enjoy too is, for the most part, up until now, it feels like it's kind of one of those, you buy the stuff, you stash it away, and it's incremental gains over time. It's not a massive burst of crazy FOMO type money that's getting in on these products. Historically, that's what I've seen anyway. And I know some people have said back in 2020, 2021, there was also kind of a pop, of interest, of course. And I remember that as well. But now it feels like, the new sealed product, you now have rip and ships, you have breaking and different things that are involved here that are much more prominent in this space. And there's a lot of, and it feels like there's a lot more organic interest. And there's also kind of like what I said, there's the mini whales and the mini whales. There might be someone that's got $10,000 that's put into this. There might be someone that has 50 or 100. And then you've got people that have millions of dollars that are holding specific product. And of course, when they're holding it, it's not on the market. So it kind of generates this scarcity. The stuff is not scarce. The supply is out there. It's just in closets all over the world. But because nobody's selling it, there's not available product. And the one thing I said as a risk factor is, it's just if you have a whale, multiple whales that decide to move off of the product that they've got, Fusion Strike is a great example of this. If Fusion Strike, I had a commenter say that it was $79 a box at one point, $79, $80 a box. And now it's $450, $500. I don't care who you are and how much money you have. That is significant. Now, I have had people in my comment section say like, hey, 5X, that's for Timmy's. Hey, if 5X is for Timmy's, then man, that's not bad in the world of investing. If we're going to call this investing, I mean, 5X on your money is good over a 10-year span, let alone, a 1 year, 18 month, 2 years, or 3 year span of time. That's nuts. But one thing that we're seeing, and I'm very curious, I actually just bought 2 more booster boxes of Scarlet and Violet, just the base set, because it's a fairly affordable booster box. Nothing too crazy or special about it. But part of my thinking is, hey, look, the people like me that might be kind of newish coming in, or maybe people that are adding to their positions, maybe they're just looking at, hey, what is stuff that doesn't feel like it's crazy overpriced right now? And they're going to go down the line, down the list, and just kind of look and see like what is available. And maybe it's Scarlet and Violet ends up being the one that gets a little bit of a bump because it's fairly available. It's still kind of inexpensive, but just because of that reason, people are like, okay, well, this is something that I can get in on. I don't feel like I'm chasing into, one of these other sets that might be up to $200 or $250 or $300. It's kind of an interesting thing. It's an interesting thought of, does it make sense to just kind of double down on the sets that are already kind of running? Or is this kind of a trickle down effect where, hey, look, once boxes get to $250, $300, those are out of the price points for certain collectors or certain, sealed holders. And so then you just go down the line. What's left at $100? What's left at $150? And then you're trying to kind of gather some pieces there to add to the stockpile. The one modern set that I am going out of my way to buy kind of the individual booster packs and also the 3-pack blisters, I've talked about this, is Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies clearly is one that stands alone here that's been released over the last few years. My question for viewership is, Umbreon is clearly the card, it's the character to have. And what I'm trying to figure out, I guess, just trying to understand Pokemon, and for the people that are chasing that card, what is the significance of that character? Why is it Umbreon that's kind of that chase or that go-to? Kind of like how Charizard is in many of the sets going back in time. What is it about that particular character? And is that something that you feel like is just for Evolving Skies? Is that why it's popular? Or is that a character that is going to have longevity? I'm trying to understand really kind of the chase cards and why that character stands out among others. And Evolving Skies, I've gotten feedback. I did a video going back a few days ago where it was XY evolutions versus Evolving Skies. Which one would you rather have? The boxes are about the same price. The booster boxes, of course, they're just different products, different pros, cons out of it. But most of the comments were Evolving Skies when it was XY evolution versus Evolving Skies. So I thought that was interesting. And so I am prioritizing that particular set when I'm looking at, am I going to spend $150 on a booster box of whatever, or $200, or should I buy as much Evolving Skies stuff as I possibly can? And that's the thing I'm going through my mind right now. And I'm kind of leaning more towards Evolving Skies, but still trying to iron out what I'm doing as far as kind of the modern, ultra modern sets and that sort of a thing. I'd like to have a mixed bag of things. That's why I've got some booster boxes of different stuff. I've got 3-pack blisters of different things, and so just trying to get kind of a mix and see how that all goes as I'm getting my feet wet in this space. I appreciate the comments on my last video. For Nostalgianomics, I hope people don't misunderstand. I like watching his show. It's entertaining. He knows his stuff, and I think he's been in it for 10 plus years. So I have respect for somebody that's been in, stayed in, built a business around it. So it's not a personal thing. It's more of, there are some things I agree with, some things I like to question, but part of that pushback allows me also to hear the reasoning why I might be wrong, or I might learn something new, or I might decide, you know what, I'm not going to follow the crowd on this. I'm going to go my way or whatever. But either way, this is good. It's good for the feedback. My next video is going to be about, I think, an eventual cool down, which I think is pretty obvious for most people, even regardless of a lot of kind of those, those pros that we talk about, all those markers, all of those things to show like, hey, there's not enough supply, this and that. I think there's going to be a cool down coming. I'll talk about that in the next video. But it does feel like, not just because of YouTubers, Pokemon YouTube, investing YouTubers or whatever, it just feels like overall there is a lot of momentum in this particular space, especially when folks like me coming over from sports cards, maybe coming over from action figures. I'm sure, especially if there's a lot of churn with, products going up and down in that, there's probably sneakerheads that come in and are looking at this. There's probably a variety of different people that are looking at Pokemon, maybe Pokemon cards for the first time or coming back to it. All right, friends, stay healthy, Stay awesome. I'll talk to you again later.